I did with Zack Fuller. I coached Zack for his first Boston Marathon, which he ran this past April 2023. Boston was Zack's third marathon, and I also coached him for his second marathon the year prior. With Boston, Zack ran a 3-minute PR to finish in 2:54:21. Zack gives some great advice and insights. Let's hear what he has to say. You say your name and where you live for the people who don't know you.
Oh, yeah. I'm Zack Fuller. I live in Asheboro, North Carolina. Just ran my first Boston Marathon.
Yes, your first Boston. And you had a really good result. But let's start before we get to the result.
Okay.
In your preparation for it, were you sort of surprised by what came out on race day, or did you feel that you kind of knew what to expect and it lived up to all those expectations? Or
I felt like it went basically perfectly. If you actually before the race, someone asked me, like, if everything goes perfectly, what do you think your time will be? And my time was about 40 seconds faster than the time that I said. So I feel like that was kind of the pace I was training for, maybe a few seconds per mile slower, but it basically just came together exactly like I hoped it would.
yeah, that's awesome. So tell everybody what your finish time was and how much of a PR that was, because it was good.
Okay. It was 2:54 and 21 seconds. And that was a PR by a little bit over 3 minutes for me.
Awesome. On a hard course, mind you. Everybody take note.
Yes. It was my third marathon. My first two were flat beach marathons. So it was a very different landscape and a much harder course. So I was pretty thrilled with the result.
How did you feel about running such a large race compared to the others that you had done? Because obviously this is like, 6 times or 10 times the size of the other races you've done.
It was so exciting. Gosh, there were so many people. Like, the crowds were incredible. I'd never seen anything like it. I basically have described it this way. Like, basically just about every mile of that race had something comparable to the finish line of every race that I had run before. So it's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
And it was cool to be around so many other, like, really fast, talented runners too. So
Yeah, you're never alone in Boston, that's for sure.
no.
Well, in terms of your training, if you had to say if you had to look back and say what was the one thing or a few things that gave you the confidence to sort of go after your PR, what would you point to?
I would say, gosh, I feel the best when I'm going through, like, the peak weeks and doing, like, the hardest workouts, and basically I can hit the times that I'm supposed to hit, like, relatively easily, and sometimes even push it a little bit faster, which I know I'm not always supposed to do, but I get a lot of confidence from that. I hate it when I can't hit the times that I'm supposed to hit on a workout, and I always feel good if I can, like, beat them by a few seconds. And so like, for the 2 races that I've trained for with you, I've felt like by peak training, I can do the workouts and, like, not come close to failure basically on any of them, which is, that's the fun of training for me. Just, like, having the challenge and being able to succeed over and over again, even before the race gets there.
Yeah, I note that, from the coach's point of view, your success rate is quite high. And your completion rate is 100% for all the training, which is also good. And, I mean, that's not always I think most people, want to be able to do that, and sometimes they can't because of, things beyond their control. But um, you just were able to nail every single thing. So um
Very committed. I sometimes I run at like 9 o'clock in the evening. I have like a long day and a bunch of things to do, but if I'm like if I can be upright, I'm gonna go for my runs basically.
yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely obvious and apparent. I think, and that pays off in in the race itself. Um, was there anything that you felt potentially in the race that was like kind of caused a little bit of trepidation or doubt? Were there any moments in the race where you were like, "Oh, geez, I better be careful here," or
Well, I had a ton of doubt going in because like basically the day that I left to come to Boston, my back just randomly started hurting and especially hurt when I was running. And so the day before the race, I was concerned I wouldn't even be able to finish. So like that was a huge thing. Um, but that I had a little bit of pain when the race started, but my back loosened up and that went exactly the way I was hoping it would too. By the time I was 13, 14 miles in, like I couldn't even tell, it it had loosened up and any pain that I might have been feeling was drowned out by just like the general pain of running a marathon.
yes, definitely. So what was your impression? Everybody talks about the Newton Hills. Everybody talks about Heartbreak Hill specifically. What was your impression of those?
I felt like I was very well prepared. You guys did a great presentation. Like I would recommend anyone who's preparing for Boston watch it, but you know, kept things under control early on. I will say early on, maybe it was just where I was, but like half a mile in, my watch was showing like a 7.5 minute pace, and I was like, oh no, I can't get to the bottom of the downhill section and have like time to make up. So I did have to make a little bit of effort to get around a few people, but once I got through that, I was feeling pretty good. The the plan that we had basically was to run a few seconds ahead of the target pace, and then I I felt like I took the hills pretty conservatively, and when I got basically to Heartbreak Hill, which is the last one, I was still feeling pretty good. I probably slowed down the most on that one, but once I was over it, I could tell I still had plenty of gas left in the tank, and I just hit the gas. I went as fast as I could the rest of the way, and pretty much made up all the time I lost on the hills, which was really exciting. I
Yeah.
started to fade a little bit in the last 5K, but that's right when all the crowds are really getting big and loud, and uh,
Hmm.
you know, once I got there, I was able to push through it. I thought I was going to collapse at the end, but I didn't. I felt like it started pouring rain right after I finished,
Yeah.
and I had to
The
get out of.
the end of Boston, the end of the course there is also challenging, and it doesn't get no one talks about it really because there's the other hills are even more challenging, so it kind of gets pushed under the rug. But it's definitely not easy there.
No, for me, when I really accelerated on the downhill stretch, but then once it levels out, I felt like I could barely keep my pace up. Uh, I felt like I was running just as fast, but I kept looking at my watch, and my time was getting slower and slower. So if you like look at my time over the course of the race, I did like dip a little bit there, like
Yeah.
right in the middle of the last 5 mile stretch or so, but got it back together. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, can't say enough about the crowds there. I mean, I just it was I felt like I was in the Super Bowl or something.
Yes. Yes.
Never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I know. I talk about it all the time. I've used all different analogies, and it doesn't come through until you actually experience it for yourself, I think, and then it's like, oh, okay, no, it really is as big and as hype as everyone says. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I couldn't believe that.
So what's your what would you say for people who want to, PR, let's say just PR in general. What would be, one or two tips that you would give for people that are aiming for that?
Definitely consistency. Like I know a few people who have tried to get into running. Like I don't know anyone who gets as intense about it as I do, but a lot of people, I mean, will commit for like a few weeks and then life gets in the way, and I just feel like it's really absolutely worth it to just find the time and get the workouts in. But also, uh, like so many runners, for many years when I would train, I would just like go outside and run as fast as I could
Hmm.
the entire run. But like having a plan with really good workouts, running hard when you need to run hard, but also like getting all those slow miles in. Until a couple years ago, really didn't know anything about that. So, I, the first marathon I ever did, I really burned myself out. Basically, just running like that. Like I didn't do slow runs. I did leg workouts when I wasn't running, and every run that I did was what we would call a quality session,
Yeah.
where I either tried to run race pace or like faster than race pace. And I felt miserable training for that whole entire race. But you can train and feel good the whole time and get much faster. So, it was really fun to have that experience and learn that you can do that. So,
Yeah, I usually am encouraging you to strike the balance. That's sort of
yeah,
my
definitely.
my role in your, the little voice in your head. I'm usually like, let's just pull it back. You're like, let's push, push. I'm like, let's just pull it back a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's a good, that's good, right? It's the yin and the yang. It's the, the hard and the easy. They just go together. So it works out nicely, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So have you cleaned your garage?
My garage, I would not show you my garage. It's a giant.
Yeah.
That's a big project that I'm ready to take on right now. Rather train
Yeah.
for a marathon.
I tell you, I have cleaned my apartment more in the last week or two than the last 2 months, 3 months.
uh, I was really sore after the race, but it didn't take very long at all you know to get the itch for running back.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Well, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Yeah, I started doing a few little mini workouts. No running yet.
Good. I think that's good.
Oh yeah,
Cool. Well, I think we're gonna say that we've imparted enough wisdom for the masses today.
okay.
So I will say goodbye here to the YouTube peoples, and also say thank you to you for talking and sharing your story.
Well, yeah, and thank you for all the advice and gosh, you've really helped me a ton these past 6 months or so. So thanks.
Absolutely. I hope you've learned a few things. Zach was superb in his race execution, and as his coach, I can tell you that's something he did well throughout training too. Here's a look at his splits. Zach crossed the half in 1:26:52, so a little positive split from one half to the other, but no massive slowdown. His slowest mile is not surprisingly that climb up Heartbreak Hill. That's the split at mile 21. For those who may not know, the Newton Hills of Boston start at mile 16. That's roughly the 25K mark. Zack managed himself really well through that tough section, but that was facilitated by his patience early on. That is a strategy I recommend in Boston. Hope this information helps, and I hope to see many of you this year. Happy training!